The most dangerous person in any room is not the one with the most money, the best connections, or the highest education. The most dangerous person is the one who has learned to depend on absolutely no one but themselves to get what they want. While everyone else is playing politics, networking, and waiting for handouts. This person is quietly building an empire with their bare hands. They don't need your approval, your investment, or your partnership. They don't need the government to create jobs because they create their own jobs. They don't need the bank to approve their loan because they generate their own capital. This terrifies people because it proves that everything they've been taught about needing others is a comfortable lie designed to keep them weak, dependent, and under control. There was a man in my neighborhood who started building a house 15 years ago. Every time I drove past that corner, I saw the same concrete foundation, the same half-built walls, the same rusty steel rods reaching toward heaven like desperate fingers. 15 years. The weeds grew taller than the walls. The rain filled the foundation with muddy water. Children started using it as a playground. And I finally stopped and asked him one day, "Brother, when are you going to finish this house?" He looked at me with tired eyes and said, "I'm waiting for my brother in America to send money. I'm waiting for the government contract to come through. I'm waiting for my business partner to get serious. I'm waiting." That man died last year. The house still stands there, unfinished. A monument to waiting. A gravestone for dreams that never lived because they were always waiting for someone else to breathe life into them, you see. Most of us are building unfinished houses. Most of us are living in the foundation of our dreams, looking up at what could be, but refusing to pick up the hammer ourselves. We have become professional waiters, not the kind that serves food, but the kind that serves excuses to themselves every single day. Right now, as I speak to you, there are millions of people sitting in coffee shops, lying in bed, standing in unemployment lines, scrolling through their phones, waiting for someone to discover them, waiting for someone to give them a chance, waiting for someone to believe in them before they believe in themselves, waiting for permission to start the life they were born to live. But here's what I learned that changed everything for me. Nobody is coming. Nobody is coming to save your marriage. Nobody is coming to pay your bills. Nobody is coming to lose the weight for you. Nobody is coming to write your book. Nobody is coming to start your business. Nobody is coming to make your dreams happen. The cavalry you've been waiting for, they're stuck in traffic. They're dealing with their own problems. They're waiting for someone to come save them too. This is not a tragedy. This is your liberation. When I was young, I used to watch my mother every evening sitting by the window waiting for my father to come home and fix the broken faucet. Months passed, the faucet kept dripping. One day she got tired of waiting. She went to the hardware store, bought the parts, watched her neighbor show her how to fix it, and fixed that faucet herself. From that day forward, she never waited for anyone to fix anything in her house again. She became the solution she was waiting for. And that's when I understood something powerful. The moment you stop waiting for someone else to solve your problems is the moment you become dangerous to mediocrity. The moment you stop looking for a hero is the moment you become one. But we've been programmed differently, haven't we? We've been raised in a culture that teaches us to wait. Wait for the right time, wait for the right person, wait for the right opportunity, wait for the economy to get better, wait for the perfect moment. We've become addicted to waiting because waiting feels safe. Waiting doesn't require courage. Waiting doesn't risk failure. Waiting doesn't expose us to criticism. But waiting is the silent killer of potential. Waiting is the thief that steals years from your life while you sleep. Waiting is the lie that whispers tomorrow will be different, while today slips through your fingers like sand. I want to tell you something that might hurt, but it will heal you. Your dreams don't care about your excuses. Your potential doesn't care about your fears. Your purpose doesn't care about your comfort zone. Time doesn't care about your procrastination. Success doesn't care about your good intentions. The harsh truth is this: while you're waiting for someone to help you, someone else is helping themselves. While you're waiting for the perfect conditions, someone else is creating conditions. While you're waiting for permission, someone else is asking for forgiveness later. While you're waiting for motivation, someone else is building discipline. Every single day you wait is a day you'll never get back. Every single opportunity you let pass because you needed someone else's approval is an opportunity that might never come again. Every single dream you put on hold because you couldn't do it alone is a dream that dies a little more each day. But something beautiful happens when you finally accept that you're on your own. When you stop looking around for help and start looking within for strength. When you stop asking, who can do this for me? And start asking, how can I do this myself? A power awakens inside you that you never knew existed. The power of self-reliance. The power of personal responsibility. The power of saying, if it's going to be, it's up to me. This power doesn't make you selfish. It makes you self-sufficient. It doesn't make you isolated. It makes you independent. It doesn't make you bitter. It makes you better. Your greatest breakthrough is waiting on the other side of your willingness to do it alone. Your biggest victory is hiding behind your decision to stop depending on others. Your most powerful moment will come when you realize that everything you need to succeed is already inside you, waiting for you to stop looking everywhere else and start looking within. The question is not whether you can do it alone. The question is, are you finally ready to stop waiting and start building? Let me tell you about Maria. 3 years ago, she was a single mother of 2, working double shifts at a restaurant, barely making ends meet. Her husband had left, her family had written her off, and her friends kept telling her to be realistic about her dreams. She had this crazy idea to start a catering business from her tiny apartment kitchen. Everyone told her she was foolish. You need investors, they said. You need a business loan, they said. You need connections, they said. You need help. Maria looked at her children sleeping on a mattress in the living room and made a decision that changed everything. She said, I don't need anyone's permission to feed my family. She started with $20, a borrowed pot, and recipes she learned from her grandmother. She cooked food in that tiny kitchen and sold it to her neighbors. One meal at a time, today. Maria owns 3 restaurants and employs 47 people. She never got the investor. She never got the loan. She never got the help she thought she needed. What she got was something far more powerful. She got the unshakable confidence that comes from knowing you can create something from nothing with your own 2 hands. This is what happens when you stop waiting for rescue and start working for results. You don't just build a business or achieve a goal. You build something far more valuable. You build an unbreakable belief in yourself. Most people live their entire lives as prisoners in a jail cell where the door was never locked. They sit there complaining about being trapped when all they had to do was stand up and walk out. The prison is not your circumstances. The prison is your belief that you need someone else to set you free. When you were a child, you needed help to tie your shoes. You needed help to reach the high shelf. You needed help to cross the street. But somewhere along the way, you were supposed to outgrow that dependency. You were supposed to learn that the strongest person in your life should be you. Instead, many people grow older but never grow up. They trade childhood dependency for adult dependency. They go from needing mommy and daddy to needing the government, the boss, the spouse, the friend, the system to take care of them. But there's a difference between asking for help and depending on help. When you ask for help, you're adding to your strength. When you depend on help, you're giving away your power. When you ask for help, you remain the author of your story. When you depend on help, you become a character in someone else's story. Self-reliance doesn't mean you never accept assistance. It means you never accept excuses. It means you take full responsibility for your results, regardless of who shows up or doesn't show up in your life. It means you become resourceful instead of resentful. It means you find a way instead of finding blame. When obstacles appear on your path, you have two choices. You can sit down and wait for someone to remove them, or you can figure out how to climb over them, go around them, or break through them. The person who chooses to act discovers something amazing. Every obstacle they overcome makes them stronger. Every problem they solve makes them smarter. Every challenge they face makes them more capable. But the person who waits for rescue never develops these muscles. They remain weak because they never exercise their problem-solving abilities. They remain dependent because they never practice independence. They remain stuck because they never learn to move. Here's what I want you to understand. Your problems are not punishments. They're promotions. They're opportunities for you to develop abilities you didn't know you had. Every difficulty in your life is asking you the same question. How badly do you want what you say you want? Your answer determines whether you find excuses or solutions. When you truly accept that it's up to you, something magical happens. You stop wasting energy complaining about what's not there and start using that energy to create what should be there. You stop focusing on what you lack and start maximizing what you have. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the architect of your future. The most liberated people on earth are not those who have the most help. They're those who need the least help to accomplish their goals. They've learned to be complete within themselves. They've learned to generate their own motivation, create their own opportunities, and solve their own problems. This is your invitation to join them. This is your moment to stop being dependent and start being dangerous. Dangerous to mediocrity. Dangerous to limitation. Dangerous to every excuse that has kept you small. The door to your prison cell was never locked. Today is the day you finally stand up and walk out. I met a young man named James who had a vision to create mobile apps, but he had zero programming knowledge, zero funding, and zero connections in the tech industry. Everyone told him he needed to find a technical co-founder, raise investment capital, or join an established company first. Instead, James made a decision that shocked everyone. He decided to learn everything himself. Every morning at 5 a.m. before his day job, James taught himself coding through free online tutorials. During lunch breaks, he studied user interface design. On weekends, he learned about marketing and business development. It took him 2 years of intense self-education, but he built his first app entirely by himself. That app generated $50,000 in its first year. Today, James runs a 7-figure software company, and he owns 100% of it because he never gave away equity to get help he could provide for himself. This is the power of becoming your own university. When you can't find a teacher, you become the student who teaches himself. When you can't find a mentor, you become your own guide. When you can't find resources, you become resourceful. Most people think they need money to start. They need capital. They need investors. They need loans. But the most successful people I know started with something far more valuable than money. They started with skills. Money runs out. Skills multiply. Money can be stolen. Skills can't be taken from you. Money depends on external circumstances. Skills make you independent of circumstances. Every skill you acquire is like putting money in a bank account that no one else can access. Every ability you develop is insurance against an uncertain future. Every talent you master is a tool that works in any economy, any country, any situation. This is why the person who can do it alone will always be more secure than the person who needs a team to accomplish basic tasks. When you have no choice but to figure things out yourself, you develop a quality that's rare in today's world. You become anti-fragile. You don't just survive difficult situations. You get stronger because of them. You don't just adapt to change. You create change. You don't just solve problems, you prevent problems. The person who built their success alone knows every part of their business intimately. They understand every process because they created every process. They can troubleshoot any problem because they've solved every problem before. They can train anyone because they've learned everything themselves. This deep knowledge becomes their competitive advantage. But there's something even more powerful than knowledge. There's wisdom. And wisdom only comes through experience when you do everything yourself. You gain experience faster than people who delegate from day one. Every mistake teaches you something. Every failure shows you what doesn't work. Every small victory builds your confidence for bigger challenges. Your weaknesses are not permanent disabilities, they're temporary skill gaps. The moment you stop seeing them as limitations and start seeing them as learning opportunities, everything changes. That weakness in public speaking becomes your motivation to join a speaking club. That weakness in financial management becomes your reason to study accounting. That weakness in technology becomes your push to master digital tools. Successful solo operators share one common trait. They never say, I can't do that. Instead, they ask, how can I learn to do that? This simple shift in language creates a completely different life. One question closes doors. The other opens libraries, courses, mentors, and opportunities you never knew existed. The beautiful thing about developing yourself is that every skill connects to every other skill. Learning to code teaches you logical thinking that helps in business planning. Learning to market teaches you communication skills that improve your relationships. Learning to manage money teaches you discipline that applies to time management. You become not just capable, but unstoppable. Because when you can do it alone, you never have to compromise your vision, dilute your standards, or wait for someone else's schedule. You move at the speed of your own determination. The hardest battle you'll ever fight is not with your competitors, your circumstances, or your critics. The hardest battle is with the voice inside your head that whispers lies in the dark hours of the morning. This voice knows exactly what to say to stop you. It speaks your language. It knows your fears. It remembers your failures, and it never sleeps. This voice tells you that you're not smart enough to figure it out alone. It reminds you of every time you tried something and failed. It points to other people's success and asks why you think you're special. It magnifies every obstacle until it looks impossible. It minimizes every small victory until it feels meaningless. This voice is not your friend. Even though it claims to be protecting you. When I decided to write my first book, this voice was louder than a stadium full of critics. Who are you to write a book? It said. You don't have a publisher. You don't have an agent. You don't have credentials. Real authors have degrees and connections and years of experience. But I had learned something that changed the game. The voice that tells you why you can't is the same voice that will celebrate when you do. Your mind is like a courtroom. And there are two lawyers presenting cases. One lawyer presents all the evidence for why you should try. The other presents all the evidence for why you should quit. The problem is that most people have been listening to the wrong lawyer for so long that they think his voice is the voice of reason. But that voice is not reason. That voice is fear wearing a business suit. Fear is not always wrong, but fear is always conservative. Fear wants you to stay where you are because where you are is familiar. Fear doesn't care if familiar is miserable. Fear prefers predictable misery over unpredictable success. Fear would rather have you survive than thrive because thriving requires risk, and fear hates risk more than it loves reward. But here's what I've learned about fear. Fear is a liar. But fear is also a compass. Whatever fear tells you to avoid is usually pointing toward your breakthrough. Whatever fear tells you to quit is usually what you need to continue. Whatever fear says is impossible is usually what's most necessary for your growth. The moment you decide to do it alone. Every excuse you've ever made will return like an army of ghosts. They'll march through your mind in perfect formation, each one more convincing than the last. You don't have time. You don't have money. You don't have experience. You don't have support. But these are not facts. These are fears disguised as fact. The truth is this: you don't overcome fear by avoiding what scares you. You overcome fear by doing what scares you. Every time you act despite the fear, you prove to yourself that the fear was lying. Every time you take a step when the voice says stop, you weaken its power over you. Every time you choose action over analysis, you build the muscle of courage. Action is the enemy of overthinking. Movement is the cure for paralysis. Progress is the antidote to perfectionism. When you start moving toward your goal, even if you're moving slowly, even if you're moving scared, something shifts in your favor. The universe begins to respond to your commitment. Opportunities appear that weren't there before. Solutions present themselves that you couldn't see while you were sitting still. The voice that once told you why you couldn't starts whispering why you can. And eventually, that whisper becomes your new normal. There's a taste to success that can only be experienced when you earn it entirely by yourself. It's different from inherited wealth, different from gifted opportunities, different from team victories. When you build something from nothing with your own hands, your own mind, your own determination, it creates a flavor of satisfaction that touches your soul in ways that shared success never can. Let me tell you about Sarah, a woman who transformed not just her life, but her entire family's legacy through the power of doing it alone. 5 years ago, Sarah was working as a night shift cleaner in downtown office buildings. She was 42 years old, divorced, with 3 teenagers at home and bills that never seemed to get smaller. Her ex-husband had stopped paying child support. Her family kept telling her to find another man to take care of her. Her friends suggested she apply for government assistance. Everyone had advice, but nobody had solutions. Sarah had been cleaning those offices for 3 years when she noticed something. Every morning, she would empty the trash cans filled with perfectly good office supplies. Unused notebooks, barely touched pens, folders, binders, staplers, all thrown away because companies ordered in bulk and wasted what they didn't immediately need. She started collecting these supplies and taking them home, not to hoard, but because an idea was forming in her mind. She remembered how expensive school supplies were for her children and how many other parents in her neighborhood struggled with the same problem every August when school started. She began to see an opportunity where others saw trash. But when she shared her idea with friends and family, they laughed. Sarah, you want to start a business selling used office supplies? That's not a real business. You need investors. You need a storefront. You need business experience. You need help. But Sarah had learned something powerful during those long nights cleaning offices while the city slept. She had learned that successful people don't wait for perfect conditions. They create conditions. She didn't need anyone's permission, anyone's money, or anyone's belief in her vision. She needed action. Sarah started small. She organized the supplies in her garage and created simple price tags. She made flyers on her home computer and distributed them to schools, churches, and community centers. She set up a small table at weekend flea markets and local events. Parents started coming not just for the affordable supplies, but because Sarah understood their struggles within 6 months. Demand exceeded her ability to collect supplies from her cleaning job alone. So Sarah did something that shocked everyone who knew her. She contacted other cleaning companies and offered to buy their discarded office supplies. Then she reached out to businesses directly, offering to purchase their excess inventory at discounted rates. What started as collecting trash had evolved into a legitimate supply chain. By the end of her first year, Sarah's garage business had generated $47,000 in revenue. Her children watched their mother transform from someone who cleaned up after other people's success to someone who created her own success. They saw her working late into the night, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. They watched her solve problems instead of complaining about them. They witnessed her build something from nothing. In year 2, Sarah rented a small warehouse. In year 3, she hired her first employee. In year 4, she opened her first retail location. Today, Sarah owns the largest discount office supply chain in her state, with 12 locations and 87 employees. She provides jobs for dozens of families and affordable supplies for thousands of students. But here's the most beautiful part of Sarah's story. Success didn't just change her bank account. It changed her DNA. It changed how she walks, how she talks, how she thinks, how she approaches problems. It changed her children's belief about what's possible for people like them. Her daughter, who used to be embarrassed that her mother was a cleaner, now tells everyone that her mother is an entrepreneur. Her sons, who used to think business ownership was for other people, are now planning their own ventures. Sarah didn't just build a business. She built a legacy of self-reliance that will impact generations. She proved that you don't need connections if you're willing to create connections. You don't need capital if you're willing to create capital. You don't need permission if you're willing to take responsibility. This is what happens when you stop waiting for someone to rescue you and start rescuing yourself. You don't just achieve your goals. You become the kind of person who achieves goals. You develop an identity as someone who finds ways instead of finding excuses. You become living proof that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they refuse to accept ordinary limitations when you succeed alone. You carry with you an unshakable confidence that no one can ever take away. You know that if you lost everything tomorrow, you could build it back because you've already proven to yourself that you can create something from nothing. This confidence radiates from you and attracts opportunities, people, and resources that were never available when you were dependent and desperate. Your solo success becomes a beacon for others who are trapped in their own prisons of dependency. They see what you've accomplished and start to believe that maybe, just maybe, they don't need to wait for rescue either. Your victory gives them permission to attempt their own victory. Your courage gives them courage. Your independence, but more than that, when you achieve success through your own efforts, you taste freedom in its purest form. You answer to your own standards. You move at your own pace. You make decisions based on your own values, not someone else's agenda. You build something that reflects your vision, not a compromise between multiple visions. The time for waiting is over. The time for depending is done. The time for making excuses has expired. Your dreams have been patient long enough. Your potential has been polite long enough. Your purpose has been postponed long enough. Right now, at this very moment, everything you need to begin is within your reach. You have a mind that can learn. You have hands that can work. You have a heart that can endure. You have a spirit that can overcome. You have access to information, tools, and opportunities that previous generations could never have imagined. The question is not whether you can do it alone. You can. The question is not whether you should do it alone. You should. The question is not whether it's time to start. It is. The question is simple. Will you? Your time is now. Your moment is here. Your opportunity is calling. And if nobody helps you, that's perfectly fine. Because you're about to learn that the most powerful person you'll ever need is already with you. That person is you. Do it alone. Do it now. Do it anyway.